This is the third part of the series that we've been talking about on when you give your life, you find your life, okay? And it sounds a little crazy if you don't understand the whole context, right? Like, what do you mean? Are we into human sacrifice? No, we're not into human sacrifices, right? When you give your life, you find your life. You know, that's what the word tells us. In Luke 17:33, it says, all who are obsessed with being secure in life will lose it, including their lives. But those who let go of their lives and surrender them to me will discover true life. And we said this is such an example of how many people are trapped in false life, in a fake life, because all their life is about, they think they know what it's about, but they don't know what it's about. And they're obsessed in being secure. They're obsessed in having all these things, and they live a self-absorbed life that never gives, that never serves, and they end up lonely and depressed, and at the end of many years, they discover that there's no real life in that. It's a very lonely life, right? And Jesus is telling us, and he comes and he gives us the example that if, to find true life, you serve. He's saying, I'm the king, and if I'm the king, if I'm the master, and I just washed the disciples' feet, he's saying, follow my example, and you will find true happiness and an untold blessing. See? So Jesus is giving us the example. He said, I came, and I'm a king, but it doesn't take from me, it doesn't say less of me or take from my value when I serve others, when I pick up trash, when I wash feet, when I clean up, bathrooms. Like, it doesn't take away from who he is as a King of Kings by serving others. And he said, this is the example. I came not to be served, but to serve, right? So we also talked about different seasons of life. We said, this is not a message for you to feel pressure like you have to serve, and if you don't serve, then there's something wrong with you. No, because we recognize and we want to create this place where people have the freedom to recognize the seasons of their life and the capacity in which they can give and they can serve, and that it's okay, and that those seasons change. And we gave the example, how many people, were serving, strongly on and on and on, and all of a sudden they got married, had a baby, and they have nothing to give in that season of life, right? And a lot of times religion has shunned down on that and said, oh, there's something wrong with you if you're not serving, which is why people don't feel safe to take breaks or to rest or to recognize those seasons, and then they end up leaving families and leaving church, right? So we said we want to create that space, but we also want to know where we're at and where we need to go. Are we stuck somewhere? Have I been resting a little too long? Have I been sitting in the bathtub way too long that my hands are wrinkled and they look like a raisin? And is it time to start serving, Or have I dealt with my heart and my wounds and or do I need to deal with them so that I can get back to serving and back to giving, right? Because it is in that giving that I will find my true life. And I said also that our purpose is directly linked to serving and to giving. And how do we know that? Because that's Jesus. Jesus, he started his ministry at 30, and he gave, and he gave, and he taught, and he served, right? And that was his whole purpose was in giving. He served, and then he gave his life, right? His purpose was in giving. And our purpose is also in giving. It will be found in giving. And we said not just financially, but giving of ourselves. And a lot of times people don't give because of fear, right? They hold back because of fear. Oh, I already gave into friendships, in the years past, and I got hurt, so I'm not giving of myself anymore, It's fear holding us back. Okay. So we also talked about the growth, right? How serving is such a critical part of growth and maturity. Okay, so first, we said an infant is selfish. An infant has nothing to give. It's all about me, give me, cuddle me, feed me. I'm crying. Go figure what is making me cry. It's all about me, right? That's an infant, right? We've had 5 of them. It's very recent. We know about this stuff, okay? But then they start growing up, Our baby is about to turn 4. That's so weird. Our baby's about to turn 4, okay? And Benjamin started to take out the trash, and taking on little things. Benjamin is 6. He just turned 6. Oh, wow. Okay. And then the girls are growing up, right? The girls are starting to serve around the church and all these kinds of things, right? And as they grow, we said one of the signs of maturity, or that someone that's maturing and is growing, is they go from that needy stage of just all about me to starting to contribute, right? And we also said how Jesus did everything for the disciples, but he modeled for them, and then he empowered them, and he sent them out to by twos, and they went, and then they came back, and they had feedback with Jesus, right? And they told him about the things that they did, and so Jesus was still with them, right? And so that's like the youth years of your children. The youth years of them is when they're starting to take responsibilities and they start to contribute, and at the same time they're still with you, so you're able to give them feedback, and you're able to continue to raise them and show them as they're hands-on now. Does that make sense? So that's the youth stage, right? And we saw it with the disciples, and then we also saw it with the children of Israel. When the children of Israel were fresh out of the desert, right? They were whining and complaining, and it was all about them, right? And then in order to go to the promised land, in order to take on territory, they had to learn how to trust God, and they had to learn how to obey, right? Which a whole generation failed. And it was a new generation, the Joshua generation, that was the one that actually went into the promised land to be able to take on territory. Okay? So in the same way, before your kids go on and take on their own territory, they have to go through this youth stage of learning how to contribute and how to take on responsibility while in the safety of being with parents, okay? And as you know, we have a culture where parents never go away, where we never stop being parents and we never stop being children, because those are two other legs right there. It's not about just being a grown-up, but it's also about being a child, because if you're not like a child, you cannot enter in the kingdom of heaven. But yet, it's talking about innocence, not immaturity. You following, right? Like, it's not about being childish and like being immature your whole life. No. It's about the innocence, right? But still with carrying a responsibility, with a pure heart, okay? So, today we come to the third stage, which is adulthood, right? You've seen those shirts that said, "Today I'm adulting," right? Not adultering, that's not good, okay? Adulting, right? Well, you shouldn't just be adulting sometimes. You should. If you're an adult, you're an adult. Stay there, right? Please. Anyways, okay. Let's stay on point, right? So, this third stage is awesome, okay? So this is why you need to be able to identify where you are, where you're going, what's next, okay? If you're an infant, that's fine. How do you get to maturing, right? Start contributing, right? And if you're a youth, and you've been contributing, how do you go on to the next level? Because that next level is directly linked with your purpose. And let me tell you, I want to show you a picture of God's plan from the very beginning. In Genesis 1:28, it says, "Then God blessed them and said, 'Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground.'" Okay, so watch. He said, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it." Okay, be fruitful and multiply. Okay, from the very beginning, his desire, his heart, his plan for man was to multiply. Okay, and to fill the earth. So take over the whole thing and fill it up. Multiply. Make more of you. I love you. You guys are amazing. You're so cute, the way you grow up and talk, and then, how you throw your fits. I mean, you guys are so cute, so make me more. God wanted a family, right? He said, fill the earth, okay, and then teach him how to govern it. Teach him how to, have authority over the fish, over the animals, over the birds in the sky, all this stuff. I wish I could learn how to have authority over the birds of the sky, because they are so annoying sometimes. I mean, these pigeons and these birds, that's where I need to grow right there, okay? Because I realize BB guns are not the answer. That's my neighbor. And that's all I'm going to say, babe. Okay. Just so you know, nobody got hurt, okay? So in Genesis, we see God's plan is, hey, multiply, fill it up, okay? Make more of you, okay? So that's great. Fathers and mothers, family, that's what he wants. Well, check this out. In Deuteronomy 1:8, it says, "Look, I am giving all this, because we know man fell, right? And then they went through this whole process. Then they were in Egypt, and they were delivered from Egypt. But what was God's plan once he delivered from Egypt? He's like, to give them a land, right? So go and occupy, for it is the land that Lord swore to give to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to all their descendants. Look, he has placed the land in front of you. Go and occupy as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has promised you. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged, right? And then in Joshua 1:11, right? So we know the generation of Moses didn't make it in. We want to be the ones that make it in, right? Because God's plan was to take over the land. Again, same picture as Genesis. It's like, he's like, fill the earth, subdue the earth. Okay, you guys messed it up. Let's try it again, right? Here's the promised land. I want you guys to take over this promised land. Not just for them, but for the generations to come, right? So they could fill the earth, so that we could possess the land that the Lord gave them, right? And then so again in Joshua 1:11, God tells them, in 3 days you're going to take possession of the land your God is giving you. So God's always, it's like he's trying to get us to take on territory, right? And then the thing kind of changes a little bit. The strategy changes in the New Testament because Jesus comes and says the kingdom of heaven is now at hand. So Jesus, we know, they were expecting him to come in as a king with an army and take over. But it didn't happen that way, right? So he changed, said, okay, now we're going to do things differently. So he came and he said, this is how it's going to happen now. Said, we're going to pray this way. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Right? And he gave us authority, and he taught us to pray this way so that heaven would now come to earth. You know? No, it's no longer a strategy of taking physical territory and physical land. See? Now he said in Matthew 6:10, may your kingdom come soon, may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So he's still giving us the same strategy of take over territory, but no longer the other way. Now this way, wherever we go, wherever Christians go, wherever Spirit-filled believers go, Jesus is going, and he said, right here, kingdom come. Wherever you're at, wherever in your school, wherever in your work, wherever you go, kingdom come, right there, right? So our job now is no longer to take on the territory, but wherever we go, we're supposed to bring heaven on earth, right? So it becomes the territory of heaven now. Are you with me? See, it's a different kind of takeover. It's a love takeover. It's a kindness takeover. Okay? And where we go, we bring heaven on earth. Through peace, through healing, through joy. Through people knowing the one king of that kingdom. Are you with me? We're establishing his kingdom on earth through our lives. And what is this phase 3 of maturity? It's multiplication. See, we're taking the land because wherever we go, we're responsible to bring heaven on earth, okay? But we're also multiplying ourselves. And that's, see, what's the goal with your kids? That they would grow up, that they would mature, that they would learn how to do laundry while they're at home, right? So that one day they get married and they go out of the house and they create their own family. They know how to do the dishes, load the dishwasher the right way, and do laundry, and they now can teach their kids. That's called multiplication. Say with me, multiplication. Okay? That's discipleship. And the only way that happens is through family, not through institutions. That's the goal. Are you multiplying yourself now? No, well, that's the next step. Right? Are you teaching others what you're learning? No. Well, that's the next step. Well, how long are you going to be a spiritual youth? Right? It's up to you. Because you go from contributing to taking ownership. And when you take ownership, you start multiplying. Because you realize more people need to know this. And so many Christians are stuck not only in infancy, but also in youth. You know, I'll just help a little bit. I didn't really want any responsibility, you know. And it's like a bachelor, right? Who's not committed to anything, lives for himself, lives his own life, you know, can't commit to anybody or anything. He just lives for himself. He's in some relationships only for what he can get out, never for what he can contribute. Are you with me? So the difference between that and the plan that Jesus had for us is multiplication. And you don't have to have biological kids for this. The disciples made disciples, right? Matthew 28:19 says, therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. See, this is the last thing that Jesus told them, the Great Commission. It's like, all right, I've taught you everything. I've showed you how to do it, giving you feedback, okay? You've been with me for 3 years. 3 years, that's a good rule to follow. 3 years. 3 years. Imagine that. If every Christian went from child to a spiritual adult in 3 years. But Jesus thought they were like, all right, taught you everything you need to know. You know, so. There is so much information nowadays. And so many people hold back because they just want one more degree, one more class, one more book, one more teaching. Before I do anything, one more, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But when you're holding back from giving because you're still learning and it's been 20 years, you go, wait a minute. The disciples only had 3 and Jesus was like, all right, go. Multiply yourself. Make disciples. Same thing as in Genesis, right? Build the earth. Multiply. Be fruitful. Now Jesus, before he leaves, he tells them, all right, here you go. Be fruitful, multiply. Go. Make disciples, right? Baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Where are we? Because maybe you thought, oh yeah, I'm the adult, but now you go, wait. So that's one of the characteristics of being an adult is multiplying yourself. I don't think I'm there. If you think you're spiritually mature because you know a lot, you're wrong. It's not because of what we know. It's what we do, how we living our lives, and are we making disciples? Are we feeding others? Remember on Father's Day I said, it wasn't Father's Day. A few months ago I said, the way we make disciples is as we eat, we feed others. It's simple. It is not complicated. You don't have to start a Bible study with make sure there's 12 people because Jesus had 12 disciples and only if there's 12 people coming every week then you can start a discipleship. No. You disciple people when you feed them from what you ate that week. I know that sounds a little gross, but it's not like that. I mean, like you make food, you ate, now you're, whatever, So the disciples went through these 3 stages, okay? And it's the Jesus leadership model. Jesus did for them, and he showed them. He modeled for them, okay? Then they did, and he gave them feedback, okay? Which is good. We're always in family. We can get feedback, right? And then he sent them to do. He's like, now you guys go, right? Do your own family. See, like, when I think about, our kids, we have 5 kids. So in 20 years, maybe they'll all be married, and have kids. That's going to be a lot of people. That's multiplication, right? Their own little families. Like, that's what's supposed to happen at church, right? We're supposed to multiply. Instead, the church culture nowadays, a lot of times it's totally okay to just come in and out, eat and leave, and never ever contribute in any possible way. Like I got a good word for me. Now I know how I can improve myself and how I do myself. And it's just all about me and my own growth. When it's even worse is when those that get their own growth don't even teach it to their kids. Not only do they not multiply themselves and feed other people, but they don't even teach it to their kids. Like, that's dangerous because that is putting the next generations in danger. So that's the third stage of maturity and growth is multiplication, being fruitful, and this is how we take the land. Because when we're teaching others to do what Jesus taught us to do, then they're bringing heaven on earth, right? So that taking on the land, it's happening automatically. Because they're just bringing heaven wherever they go. Heaven came at the market today. Heaven came at the restaurant today, And that's what we're taking on territory. Because we're multiplying. And that's how the kingdom is spreading. It's through us. It's not a takeover of geographical land. It's the multiplication of the sons and daughters of God that are carrying the kingdom within them and that are letting it out wherever they go. Thanks, Dave. And what about me? What about my life? Who's going to take care of me? Let me tell you, Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness. And all of these things, all these needs will be added unto you. See? He takes care of us. Because he knows my plan has to work, right? If people are seeking my kingdom, if they're feeding others, if they're multiplying, right? If they're doing what I call them to do, my plan has to work equally for everyone so that nobody lacks anything and everyone has abundance for every good work. So how am I going to do that? Oh, Matthew 6:33. When you seek my kingdom first, I add everything onto you. Nothing to worry about. Done. He's amazing, right? Because he's not even asking us to go without food and suffer and be, in cold or, well, that's impossible here in Arizona, but, he's provided everything. Everything for us. There's no buts except yours. So get it out of the way. You seek the kingdom of God first. See? You seek to grow. I don't know what stage of life you're in. Wherever you're at, that's okay. Where are you going now? Where are you going next? Okay? How long is it going to take you? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Don't let it be 40. Because a whole generation died when they waited 40. So, we want you to know there's, at least in this house, there's always room for your gift, for your passion, for you to serve. It's part of the reason why we are launching these 3 volunteer meetings. So spread apart, so everyone has an opportunity to get plugged in. To contribute in whatever capacity they are. So if it's, if you can't at all right now, we're okay. That's okay. And if it's like, when I used to serve before, it was like every Sunday, and I just can't commit to that. Well, that's not here. So come and learn and come and find out, how you can get involved in serving. And I'm not saying the church is the only place where you serve. I mean, you can have a lifestyle of a giver, and give of yourself and serve outside the church, and that is totally fine. Totally fine, okay? There is something about contributing in your own house, which is great. And again, if that's in your heart, we just want you to know there's room and there's a way to do it. So that's why we're doing these 3 meetings. July, it's today. But today after the 11 o'clock service, so at 1:30 in here, we're starting the first volunteer meeting. We're going to have all the information out. We're going to get you all set up, and if you want to serve, there will be a place for you. And we will share with you how, our mentality or, the way we do things here at Word of Life, how we serve and how we ask people to commit. Let me use that word, commit. Commit is a good word. I know some of you are going like, commit is a great word, It makes marriages last and families multiply. Commitment is a great word. God loves commitment, okay? But has it been abused, misused, and given a wrong meaning many times and used to control? Yes, of course. But we don't do that here. So, let me pray. And if you need anything today, if you have, let me say this also before I close. Just because you get to adulthood spiritually, it doesn't mean you no longer have needs or problems. It never means that. It never means you're now an adult. You cannot have those kind of problems or those kind of temptations, or you can never ask for help. No, never. It never means that, because we never stop being children. We should never stop being sons and daughters. We can only be good to serve and to give to others of ourselves when we continue to be in children, when we continue to be in family. So it's a two-way street. It's like, I'm a dad, but I'm still a son. In the natural, right? Whoever told people that spiritually, once you were a dad, you could no longer be a child and ask for prayer and have issues? Messed a bunch of people up. A lot.